Hello. Today I'll start with the Python programming. So first we'll see the overview of Python. So as you all know that Python is an high-level programming language and it is used for general purpose programming. It's a general purpose programming language. So before going in depth with the syllabus, first let us know what are the objectives of this subject and why we need to learn Python. Okay, so for this course, I've set some of the objectives and the course outcomes. Okay, let us see. So what are the course outcomes that we have set for this subject? Can you see the screen, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today it's overview of Python. So the name of the subject is Python programming, and it is a second subject in this semester, that is 18 MCA32. So for this, I have set 5 course outcomes. So why we set course outcomes? So the purpose of setting the course outcome for any subject is that after completion of the subject, the student will be able to deliver. Student will be able to demonstrate few things. So what is that? So what we expect the student to demonstrate by the completion of this course is that the first one is apply knowledge of Python programming to solve problems. So as I told, Python is a general purpose programming language and it is not only limited to that. So say for example, if you're using Python, you can do general purpose programming. So you can solve simple programs and you can deal with files. At the same time, you can do modular programming, so which improves more readability of your application. And at the same time, you can do so many other things like you can develop so many modern applications as well. That is like you can do data analysis. You can develop applications which are based upon IoT, and you can develop or you can write device drivers for those embedded things. That means embedded programming also can be done, which is also part of IoT. And you can develop web applications, and you can design beautiful graphical user interfaces, and you can develop the games. And these are some of the applications of Python programming. So that means you need to know that, say for example, if anybody gives you a problem, you need to analyze which is the language that best suits, okay, to implement this. Okay, so so the first CO is apply knowledge of Python programming to solve problems. So later you will come to know what are the concepts that will come under Python, so and how to apply those concepts to solve real world problems. Okay, that we are going to discuss. And the second CO is design programs with a modular approach using methods. Okay, so I think so many times you have heard about modularization. See, when we start developing any program, we take the requirements and we divide it into subsystems, and again the subsystems will be subdivided into modules. Okay, why this segregation? So this approach is called as modular programming. So that means usually most of the times we write one function to do one meaningful simple task. Okay, that's the concept of modular programming. So okay, you'll be studying how to apply functions, okay, to implement functionality or to convert your requirements into executable code. And the third CO is implement lists and dictionaries and evaluate results. Already you have studied about the list. So list is an data structure, and at the same time you are going to study one more advanced data structure, that is nothing but the dictionary. So therefore dictionary is also a data structure which you are going to study in Python programming, and also you are going to evaluate results. You are going to learn how to evaluate results using Python and by making use of suitable data structures like lists and dictionaries. And the fourth CO is implement object-oriented concepts to design GUIs. As I told that you can also design very good GUIs. Okay, maybe for the desktop applications or for the web applications, whatever it is. Okay, and this also supports object-oriented programming. So we are going to study here how to implement object-oriented concepts and also how to design graphical user interfaces. And the last CO that I have written is develop and evaluate real-time applications using Python. So since this subject is also associated with the lab component, so it is always advantageous when we teach any theory subject if it is attached with the lab. Sometimes what happens, most of the times when you take any programming language as an elective subject, so the scope is very limited. You study so much concepts, but you don't implement anything, or what you implement is minimal. So but here, since our subject is also attached with the lab, so you can develop small real-time applications, and you can demonstrate how it works. Okay, so these are the 5 course outcomes. So the purpose of having these course outcomes is, as a teacher, I expect all my students, okay, should, okay, be able to deliver these 5 outcomes. What we call it as course outcomes. Okay. Okay, now we start with Python. Okay, first look at the history. Okay, so Python was developed in 1980s by Guido van Rossum in Netherlands. So he was a researcher and a scientist, computer scientist, Guido van Rossum. So he started doing research. Okay, so in late 1980s, that means he started his research in the year 1989. That is in the late 1980s, and finally he finished developing the first version of Python in the year 1991. So actually before this Python, there was a language called as ABC language, which was used to interface with Amoeba operating system. So I think you all are aware about Amoeba operating system. It is also one of the operating system which is ideally suited for distributed domain. So that means it's an distributed operating system, Amoeba. So to interact with that, earlier people are using a language called as ABC language, and to improvise that language, so it was quite difficult. Then that was the time when Guido van Rossum thought of developing an entirely new programming language, and he called it as Python. So it was released in the year 1991. Later, Python 2.0 was released on October 2000. That includes many new features such as garbage collection and support for Unicode. So in the beginning stages, Python was not so much successful. Why? Because at the time people were used to code programs by using C programming, COBOL, Perl, PHP, and so on. So in that sense, earlier, and its library collection was also not so big. It was also not big enough, so that earlier people were not using Python so much. Okay, and in Python 2.0. So they implemented some of the new features like garbage collection, which is also one of the striking feature in Java. So that is dynamic garbage collection. That means whenever you write any program, so most of the times you'll be dealing with the data structures. So during the course of execution, it will be consuming a lot of memory. But what happens if you are allocating so much of memory, and if you are not using it, so it will be waste. So there should be some program which will take care of that garbage collection automatically. So one such feature is garbage collection. So that was incorporated in the second version of the Python, that is Python 2.0. And also one more feature was implemented, very popular feature, that is support for Unicode. I think you all know about ASCII code. So as you know, the limitations of ASCII code is that it supports only 256 characters. Okay, so ASCII value ranges from 0 to 255. So therefore, its limitation is that it can support only 256 characters. So to work on this, so something else was needed, which is nothing but Unicode. Okay, say for example, you have a special symbol. So how to encode it using ASCII? Not possible, because if that character is not part of those 255 characters, so then obviously you cannot encode. To overcome that, So they incorporated new encoding standard that is called as Unicode. So therefore Unicode is an encoding. It's a way of encoding your text. Then later, Python 3.0 was released in the year 2008, and it was not having backward compatibility. That means it was not backward compatible. So what is the meaning of that? So here you need to understand two things. One is the meaning of backward compatibility and forward compatibility. Okay. So okay, let us take an example. Say, for example, I have created one file, MS Word file. So by using Office 2010, okay, that is Microsoft Word 2010. Okay, now I want to open the same file using Office 2013. So now in this case, what happens? We all know that the document what you have created using Word 2010 will also successfully open, and it will work fine with 2013 as well. Why? Because it is having forward compatibility. Okay, backward compatibility means you create one document using, say for example, to the Office 2013, and you open it in 2010. If it is successfully opening and if it is working fine, we call it as backward compatibility. Okay, so for any application, these things matters a lot. That is backward compatibility and forward compatibility. So earlier the Python 3.0 was not having that backward compatibility. So that's one of the drawback of Python 3.0. Later on, they started releasing new releases of Python to overcome this compatibility issue. Okay, so similarly, see, and one more very important thing that I want to tell here is, see, from this year, that is 2020, Python. So actually, there is Python Open Source Foundation. Actually, they release the patches for the Python. So now they have stopped releasing any updates or the patches for Python 2.x. That means for any of the variant of Python 2 version 2, they are not releasing patches and updates from now onwards. That means you are bound to use Python 3.x. Okay. Now for our purpose to teach this subject, I will be using Python 3.8.5. Okay, once again I repeat. So I'll be using Python 3.8.5. Okay, so how to download this? You need to go to python.org. There from the downloads you can download Python 3.8.5. So it's a simple installation. Just you can go there, click, you will get the launcher, and it will start installing. That's it. Okay. I'll show you in the next class, of course, how to install and how to run the sample application or the sample statement using Python. Okay, now let us see introduction to Python. So Python is interpreted language. At the same time, it is also a high-level programming language. So what is the meaning of interpreted language? So I think you all have worked with shell programming, Unix shell programming. So there you need not have the support of compiler. That means just an interpreter is good enough to execute your Unix statements or your shell script. So in Unix programming, you do two things. One is either you write individual commands and you execute it on the command prompt. That is one method. And what happens when you have series of commands to be executed? You make it as a script with .sh extension and you run it as a file or a program. Okay, in both these cases, compiler will execute one instruction at a time. That means it can scan one instruction at a time and it can execute line after the line. But in case of compiler, what happens? Say for example, if you consider the example of C programming or Java programming. Okay, there you have a compiler. Even in Java, you have a Java C compiler. It will scan complete code at once and it will execute. Okay, so in case of Python, since it depends upon the interpreter to execute your statements or the instructions, okay, we call it as an interpreted language. So how it executes one instruction at a time. So after scan. So that means it can parse one instruction at a time, and it will try to understand what is its meaning, and it will take corrective action against that instruction. Okay, say for example you have written print of hello world. Okay, if that is one instruction, okay, it will parse it as, okay, it will understand that print is a statement, output statement. Okay, and whatever embedded within the double quotes has to be displayed on the screen. Okay, that's how it understands. Okay, and even though if you write a program, it will execute one line at a time and in a top-down approach. And it is also a high-level programming language, just like C. Okay, just like C programming, Python is also a high-level programming language. Python supports a multitude of programming paradigms. So that is, it will support object-oriented programming, and it supports, that means object-oriented programming means, say, if you want to model a problem, and if you want to develop an application for that, okay, so that means you want to arrive at a solution by using an object-oriented program, so then it is also possible. So you can model your program using object-oriented approach, and also it supports, okay, functional approach. That means you can implement your requirements in terms of functionalities, that is functions or procedures. Okay, that is called procedural. Then logic, okay, and structured approach. So what is structured approach? So C is a structured programming language, we say like that. So why we say like that? So there is a structure. So the first you need to write the header files. So the program execution also starts with the preprocessors. So first, then after that, okay, main program, and so on. So in the same way, you can also write structured programs by using Python programming language. And usually we call it as a general purpose programming language. Okay, so you cannot say that Python is used exactly for this purpose. No, it's a general purpose programming language. So in what sense it is general purpose programming language? The next slides I'll be telling to you. And it is very comprehensive. It is having very comprehensive standard library that includes numeric modules and crypto related services and operating system interfaces, networking modules, graphical user interface support, development tools, and so on. Okay, so this is just an overview about what an Python library contains. What a Python library contains. So with this, we'll come to know that so Python is an interpreted language. That means we need to have an interpreter to run Python code. Okay, and Python can be run just like a shell script. Okay, by using a simple interpreter, or you can write a program as well. So what is the file extension is .py. Then it also supports for object-oriented programming, and you can write functions using Python, and you can write your program in a structured manner. So that means you can go with structured programming approach as well. Okay. Now we'll see what are all the features of Python. So if you know the features of Python, you'll get an idea actually what. Okay, so what are the striking features of Python and exactly what you can do with Python. So the main feature is easy to learn. That means what is easy to learn? It is easy to learn in the sense that its syntax is so simple that anybody can understand, and even someone who is new to the programming can also learn Python and can start, okay, programming. So usually many of the times it's practice that people say if you know C programming you can learn any other language. Okay, but I'll tell you, even if you don't know any programming language, okay, so just if you're a normal computer user, okay, straight away you can start with Python programming. It is easy to learn, and it supports quick development. Okay, so it supports quick development in the sense that As I told, it is having huge collection, huge library collection of and it supports various it extends its support to various domains using which you can model real-time problems and you can solve them. Okay, so in that sense it supports quick development. We also call it as rapid application development. Okay, maybe in software engineering you might have learned RAD, that is rapid application development. Okay, so there are certain tools which will help for rapid application development. For example, YCWG editors. YCWG is what you see is what you get. Okay, even for the Python in the same way, you have so many YCWG editors. For example, PyCharm. Okay, once again I repeat, PyCharm is one popular IDE, okay, which is also an YCWG editor. Okay, and another feature is cross platform. So what is the meaning of cross platform? Say for Java also we say it supports cross platform. So what is the meaning of cross platform? See, in Java we have something called as Java virtual machine and we call it as JVM. So similarly here also we have something called as Python virtual machine. Okay, Python virtual machine. So therefore, just like Java, when you run your program or when you run your script or any Python, when you run your Python code, it will be converted into equivalent bytecode, which will be understood by the Python virtual machine, and it will execute. Okay, and the Python program run which you have coded, you say for example in Linux platform can be successfully run by using Windows platform. Okay, that is cross-platform compatibility. And another biggest advantage is open source. Python is open source. That means just you can go to Python website and you can download it. And also, so across globe, there are developers who are committed to keep adding new features to the open source, Python open source library. And it is available for free circulation. And Python language is extensible. Okay, you need to understand the meaning of extensible. Okay, say for example you will take the actual Python source code. Okay, you do modification and you come up with your own version of Python. That is also possible. Okay, so in that sense it is extensible, and Python code is embeddable. Okay, see in the beginning I also told Python supports to develop device drivers, and also it supports for IoT. So in IoT, say for example, let us assume you are going to you are developing one application, IoT application, which will send some information from the environment, okay, and it will push data to the database. From there you can process the data and take corrective action. Okay, that is one thing. Now here to sense the data, actually what you're using sensors. Okay, so for that sensor you can write a device driver and you can embed it. Okay, that is also possible. So that means you can also write embedded code by using Python. At the same time, to process that, you can write the actual logic by using Python. That is also possible. And at the same time, to develop the application, say let it be in a desktop application or web application or whatever it is, you can develop using Python. Okay, so that is the important feature of Python. Just like Java, it is also such a powerful language. And Python has large standard library and active community. So as I told, it supports for various domains. Say for example, domains in the sense, okay, networking can be one domain, data science can be one domain, okay, so blockchain can be another domain. So like that, Python supports for so many domains. So and people have kept, the active community has kept adding new libraries to its library kit. Then it is useful for a wide variety of applications. Okay, in the next slides, we'll see which are those wide variety of applications. That is applications of Python. Scientific computing. So whenever you do scientific computing, okay, so Python is one language which is ideally suited for that purpose. Okay, it is having a lot of inbuilt library support using which you can do scientific computing. Okay, then next is IoT, that is Internet of Things. So you can develop applications that will make use of IoT technology by using Python. Okay, by using Python as a programming language, you can also develop IoT based applications, and it will provide end-to-end solution. Okay, starting with writing the embedded code for your sensors or whatever the component it is. Okay, and until the logic and preparing the final report in each and every level, you can use Python. And the next thing is game development. You can also develop games using Python programming language. And machine learning and artificial intelligence. So Python library also supports for machine learning and artificial intelligence. Then data science and data visualization. So another application is data science and data visualization. So for especially, so okay, you'll be always hearing about machine learning, data science, and so on. Okay, which is combined with artificial intelligence. So there are nowadays so a lot of applications and lot of requirements. Okay, to solve data science related problems and also data visualization. Then another application is desktop GUI. Okay, you can also develop GUIs for desktop based applications, that is graphical user interfaces. And web scraping. See, web scraping is a new concept. So I'll give an example for web scraping. Say for example, so I'm interested in analyzing, so by using Flipkart, so I want to know who are all the television manufacturers, okay, that are manufacturing the televisions, LED televisions within the price band 20,000 and 30,000. So I want to fetch only that information. Okay, so to do that, you can write a code, okay, and you can fetch that information, and we call it as web scraping. Okay, so that means actually you are automating that procedure. Okay, so you are fetching some information of your interest, and you are automating that process, and we call it as web scraping. Okay, so nowadays so many companies are working on web scraping. At the same time, there are also some alternatives tools for this, okay, which are also used for web scraping. So for example, Siguli is also one alternative for Python for web scraping. And next application is business applications. Okay, so that means you can develop applications which are useful for the business. Say for example, your father is running a business, so you want to manage the leads. Okay, so manage the lot of information related to your business. For example, procurements, maintaining the leads, client related information, and such similar things can be okay. For to solve such things, you can develop applications, and we call it as business applications. Can also be developed by using Python. And also you can develop multimedia applications. So here I have mentioned it as audio and video applications, which are nothing but multimedia applications can also be developed by using Python programming language. And another one is CAD based applications, that is computer aided design. Okay, I think you might have heard about CAD tools. Okay, especially civil CAD, mechanical CAD, and so on. You can develop such applications from the scratch by using Python programming language. Okay, then you can at the end embedded applications. Okay, so what are embedded applications? Embedded applications are those for which the operating system is part of the inbuilt circuitry, and the code, logic, everything is already embedded inside the hardware component, and we call such applications as embedded applications. For example, your refrigerator, that's an embedded application. Okay, smartwatch, that's an embedded application. Okay, you can develop such applications also by using Python programming language. Okay, students, that's it for today. Okay, and today I'll be sending one quiz. I think I'll use Google Forms, and you can answer those questions and you can submit. Okay, anything you want to ask students? Hello?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
So today is the introductory class. Today we discussed about what are the course outcomes, okay, and why we need to study Python, and the history of Python, and what are the striking features of Python, then finally the applications. Okay, from the next class, so we'll start tomorrow's class with installation of Python. We'll see how to install Python. Then we'll study programming. Okay, at the same time, I think you have seen DSpace, right? Have you visited our college DSpace? There I have put the material for Python. So I have put the PPT and the notes for module 1. Okay, you can go through it. Okay, we'll start tomorrow. Okay, next class tomorrow. So now today I'll send the quiz after some time and I'll put that intimation in the WhatsApp group. Okay, I'll put you the intimation in the WhatsApp group. You can take the quiz. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.